Hey guys, welcome back to the series where I talk about the leadership in turbulent times by Dorris, Kearns, Goodwin. Today we're going to be talking about the U.S. President Franklin Roosevelt. He was a student of Gorton, Harvard College, and Columbia Law. Working at a law firm, he was not outstanding. But when he got the fortunate, unexpected offer for a Democratic seat in the state assembly with the full backing of the party, Franklin hurried and accepted. This showed that he was ready to take new opportunities and try new things on a whim. The reasoning Franklin was chosen. The party hoped to reach out to traditionally rural areas within the district, and the Roosevelt name was famous in the Republican circles. So Franklin never took his own initiative to run, he was chosen. This is all he said. Nothing would please me more, just tell me what to do, where to go, and whom to seek out. Every Friday, he went around to people's houses, bars, and political meetings. However, what really won everyone over is that he started by listening to people's stories, not straight into politics. And when he made his maiden political speech, everyone remarked on the peculiar, relaxed, and conversational style of his speech. Historians have agreed Roosevelt's self-assured, congenial, optimistic temperament is the keystone to his leadership success. Franklin's childhood hobbies of numerous things from collecting stamps and maps to exploring the wilderness with his father were invaluable tools nourishing his leadership. For example, through his interest in maps, he learned much about the topography of countries and was able to tell his countrymen how and where two wars could envelop the entire world. His school required a public debate. Franklin worked hard to prepare and even asked his father questions and pointers. He connected emotionally with the audience and reveled in victory. Although he was lonely in the first year of growing, in his final year, he relaxed more and made some real friends, and then he got into Harvard with great examination scores. When his father passed away, he decided to find a community for himself. His chosen was Harvard Crimson, the college newspaper. He failed to get in, as it was a privilege to be a part of it. But when he heard his relative, Theodore Roosevelt, was coming to Harvard, he made sure to send in an article for them, and the next day he was on the front page, and bring 2,000 people in for Theodore Roosevelt, and the next day he was on the Harvard Crimson team as an excellent editor and climbed up the ranks until in senior year he was editor-in-chief of the newspaper. Franklin followed his uncle, Theodore Roosevelt's every activity with great attention. Coming back to the topic of his Democratic election into the state legislature, he was nominated, and his acceptance speech made it clear he would do his all for the campaign. Through his personalized campaign, he won, and then became Assistant Secretary of the Navy. Interesting, lockstep with the path of his uncle. As assistant, he learned how to be a subordinate. All his life, people had underestimated and would continue to misjudge Franklin's native intelligence. The academic yardsticks used at Groton, Harvard College, and Columbia Law failed to measure his distinctive, problem-solving capacity, to gauge his aptitude for seeing how disparate things connect, or to credit the quickness with which he absorbed information. These unique aspects of his mind were often camouflaged by his outward geniality and the easy charm of his demeanor, leading members of his social circle to consider him a lightweight. When he noticed that some fleets of the Navy had lost their usefulness years back, instead of closing them, he gave them new purpose of being specialized industrial plants for the manufacture of vessels and equipment needed for the expansion of a modern navy. Roosevelt utilized trial and error a lot. If he believed something had to be done, he would do it, and if it didn't work, he would try something else and see if that works. For example, when the Great War, World War I, started, he officially ordered millions of dollars worth of guns, supplies, and equipment before the congressional approval of the funds. And soon enough, the Lusitania sunk, and the U.S. was in World War I. He was by chance nominated to become he was by chance nominated to be vice president, and Franklin worked hard, gave the campaign everything he had, and one of his great strengths he showed during the campaign was making a fantastic team of people. They lost, though. His closest friend decided Roosevelt was president material. It had to be him. When diagnosed with polio, however, Franklin Roosevelt did not give up. He strengthened his arm muscles and customized his wheelchair and carried out executive orders. His closest friend and wife realized that Franklin would lose hope without his political ambitions. And so Eleanor, his wife, improved her public speaking skills with the help of Lewis Howe, Franklin's closest friend, and kept Franklin's name alive in public and political circles. With his wife and friend by his side, Franklin began rebuilding his legs. He found that staying in the warmth of the sun and floating in water without gravity were big helps. Polio was a big factor of his life now, and after falling in front of his first audience since his diagnosis, he worked very hard. Straining to walk to and fro places, he successfully stood up front his first large audience with polio. And also it led him to creating a rehabilitation hotel where everything was accessible and patients could take special exercise classes. He agreed to undertake the role of governor of New York and started his campaign. When he was governor, the stock market crash of 1929 happened, and the U.S. fell into depression. He made sure his speeches were simple words, He made sure his speeches had simple words. Never use big words when small words will do, he said. We are going to make a country in which no one is left out. He started by passing a bill for providing work for the unemployed, and if otherwise food, clothing, and shelter in place of it. This New York relief program became a model for the other states. Franklin wanted the presidential nomination. He was chosen after some negotiation, and he beat Herbert Hoover and was not president. Speeches reassure people, so he made a lot of them. And he also made sure to set deadlines. His deadline was March 13th, and he drove full bore to meet it. Every night, Roosevelt was working till midnight. He made fireside chats to tell the story simply and directly to the people. In them, he spoke of what he and his team have been doing and what they're planning to do. In his own words, uprooting of old abuses so that they could not readily grow again. The plan was to launch lasting reforms. The New Deal, of course. Adaptability was also key, changing in which ways that are necessary. Some programs were altered, changed, and trashed. Some that stay to this day are FHA, Federal Housing Association, FCC, and some gone now, CWA, PWA, and WPA. Franklin was open to tinkering with solutions to see what works and what doesn't or what wouldn't. His friend describes him as a real artist in the government. He had a gift of communication, faith, and problem solving, and these connections with people lay in the heart of his leadership. The importance of character and intelligence of a leader in fraught times shines bright in the name of FDR. This was my summary of the Franklin Roosevelt chapter in Leadership in Turbulent Times by Dorris, Kearns, Goodwin. I hope this was helpful, and I hope you enjoyed. Bye!